Sabah everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about the Nothing Phone 1. This is a first of its kind smartphone from the Nothing company. They've released a pair of earbuds before. It's been available for a couple of months now, and the device itself offers a very unique experience. But is it the unique experience that Carl Pei set up for us, meaning that this is a breath of fresh air, a different experience than what we see currently on the market, be it Android or iOS? Does it offer us those connectivities or interoperabilities that they talked about, the AirPod controls, as well as the Tesla controls? Do those things actually work? And also, where is this going? Do we have everything that we were promised, now that we've been in there, we've received a few updates, or is there still more work to be done? So, this is TK, this is the Nothing Phone 1, but let's go ahead and talk about, let's go ahead and try to answer some of those questions that's around it. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. First and foremost, this is the packaging. The version that I have is the black one. There's two colors. There's basically the white one with the same RGBs or the lighting effects that we have in the back. We noticed the different colors here, as I showed you guys with the introduction. You're able to control them, but there's also a couple of things we could do to get them to work with more music or any kind of content that we're using plain audio on this device. So a little bit more interactive and more enjoyable. There is USB-C to USB-C cable included in the box, no charger in the box, and we also have a very nice, unique-looking SIM removal tool that is basically, very similar to what we've seen with the other devices. So, Nothing Phone 1 looks unique, and it also includes a very unique experience when it comes to the unboxing. Now, one of the other things also is I did pick up a case for it because I definitely wanted to protect my device, but I also wanted to be able to enjoy the backing of it, that see-through material that we have in here that allows us to actually see all the ribbons, all the connectors, and of course the coil here for the wireless charging, the actual strip that we have in the back, the little exclamation point on the bottom, the C, and as well as the little, I guess forward sign. Overall, this is going to be called a Glyph interface. It's built into the system and it has multiple functionalities. One of which is a charging capability that once you plug it in to charge, it actually indicates the battery level by just showing you a fill level here on that bar, as I'm showing you guys with that quick clip. The battery obviously on mine was almost all full. One of the other things we can also use this is with the camera app as a fill light or as a light, as opposed to using the little, dual tone LED light that we have in there. We can also use the entire Glyph interface to provide us even more light that provides us maybe better pictures in low light. Cameras that we have here is a dual stack, 50 megapixel cameras on both, and of course standard focal length and ultra wide. Again, wireless charging, and of course the overall design that we have here is an aluminum rail, or an aluminum basically handheld rail experience, and a 6.5-inch OLED panel that's 120 frames per second. Built-in fingerprint sensor that's built in here on the bottom. Access to the Nothing launcher, that's the built-in standard launcher. We have customizations overall. We have the Google feed sitting here on the left. Access to the app drawer on the bottom if you want to, and of course the recent applications. Let's go ahead and bring them up. Very similar to what we see with stock, somewhat of a stock Android experience like we see on Pixel smartphones. So, we're going to start off by talking about is the design. By the way, the front-facing camera is a 16 megapixel camera, and as the model that I have is the 128 gigabytes of storage. You can go all the way up to 256, depending on the model that you'd like. When we talk about the design, there's not much we can say without basically specifically talking about the fact that this phone took a lot of inspiration from what the iPhone looks like. What I mean by this is the design, the railing, the form factor on the side. It actually brings a lot of inspiration from what the iOS or Android iPhones look like. Now, obviously, this is using a USB-C, a dual SIM card tray at the bottom, 5G technology. Bottom fire speaker also married to the earpiece here that provides us a stereo experience. Although I will say that the earpiece at the top is not as loud as it would be on some of the other devices. So, but still, we have stereo speakers and, of course, an in-display fingerprint sensor, a high refresh rate display, which also gives us a really nice smooth experience. Now, all of this is powered by the Snapdragon 778G Plus, which is a 5G enabled processor, but it is a mid-ranger 7 series. The one thing I will say, one of basically Nothing's claims is essentially that this device is giving us a much more premium experience, a much more premium material, and I agree. Gorilla Glass here on the back, the aluminum rails on here with the volume rocker, and of course we have the power button sitting on the right. All of this screams high quality material, something that we typically see on a flagship brought into the mid-ranger price point. So I don't disagree with that claim. I think they definitely did a much better job than some of the other mid-rangers that typically go with more plastic build around this price point. And again, this is something that you need to kind of hold in your hand to kind of understand how well it feels. So overall, great experience as far as the design, the aesthetics, the Glyph interface. This definitely stands out as a unique device. No other phone on the market right now has what the Nothing phone has. Of course, we have the Nothing moniker sitting here, but we can definitely see all the ribbons. Personally, I prefer this color. There is a white version of this that's also available for the same price point, and the storage capabilities, I think the lowest end is only available in this color. So the 8128 only comes in this, but I think it goes up to the higher levels, you're able to get the white color. Now, when it comes down to the interface, they promised us no bloatware, which means for the most part, we don't have dual applications. That's something that we see on most devices, even expensive flagship devices from Samsung, where we have a photo application that is basically the Google Photos app, and we also have the Samsung Gallery app. We have a calendar app as well as a Google app. Overall, what we see here is just a focus on a bare experience without adding any additional ones. Since the version that I got is not a carrier version, it does not have any bloatware, no installed applications. Everything I have on here, with the exception of the Google suite of applications, I installed and I'm able to use. And again, overall customizable, the overall setup here that we have, everything is set up there. And I also do want to talk to you guys here about the Tesla function. The uniqueness of the design that we have at the top, the glyph interface here, you can turn it on or turn it off, access to different widgets, very similar to a more of a stock Pixel experience, of course, with the exception of these two that are sitting up there. So you can see here essentially my package, what I have here, the T-Mobile and the 5G basic account. That's just information. We can swipe through here to go into the Wi-Fi, the hotspot, and of course toggle different options here, Bluetooth, and you can jump into the different things exactly. Hitting the settings tab takes us straight into the settings tab. Very simple, very easy. So this is the about page. As you can see, Nothing Phone 1, software 1.1.2, 128 storage, 8 gigs of RAM, 778G plus is the processor. And of course, this is the A063. This is the model that I purchased from the UK. So this is what's intended to run in the UK market. And it works really nicely here in the US. I'm able to pick up 5G connectivity on T-Mobile without any problems. And what that means essentially is that I'm able to pick up 5G connectivity here. You can see here I connected to a 5G signal here, and I was able to clock in about 95 down, about 40 up on the Nothing Phone 1. So no issue using this in the US. If you want to import this and use it on 5G, there's not going to be any problems there. And as far as Geekbench, just because I want to share with you guys exactly what the 778G Plus is going to perform at, it's about 821 on the single core, 3031 on the multi-core. What I will say is this is a numbers thing. This is really not going to be reflecting on the total experience. This runs very smoothly. I haven't had hiccups with the operation of this device. Everything launches the way it's supposed to, closing apps, opening apps, everything runs the way I wanted. There hasn't been really any issue overall. And the 778, although a 7 series processor, it really gives us a very similar performance-wise as what we see with some of the flagship experiences. Now, I will say there are some limitations that are built into the 7 series, and we're going to talk about that. But I also want to talk about the fact that there are other companies or other devices that use the 7 series processor that are able to give us a little bit more. The last thing I want to talk about, again, as I mentioned to you guys, the Glyph interface is built in here. You can basically press and hold it. You're able to turn it on, customize it. You can change the brightness on this, customize which ringtone is using it. And of course, it includes also custom Glyph interfaces there. Notification sounds, if you want to turn those on. Charging meter, the ability of seeing that button, as I mentioned to you guys, when you plug it in, it shows you how much it's charging. Google Assistant feedback is in there. The Glyph, flip to Glyph, meaning if you flip the phone over on the table, let's go ahead and lock it up. I'll put it on the table. It's supposed to basically do this, and it notifies us if there's any information coming in, any issues, and of course the fingerprint sensor works great. The music virtualization is a little bit of a mod that you need to do, and it has something to do with creating a custom, I guess a custom contact, assigning it to the ringtone, and then once you do so, the virtualization gets turned on. Now this is, even though it says music virtualization, this is going to play on anything that's playing audio on your display. So if you're playing games, you're watching video, this will actually play music in the background if you have this on. If you don't want it on, make sure you turn it off. Bedtime schedule, obviously, to make sure to disable Glyph so that it doesn't wake you up at night. All of those things are going to be standard. But with the exception of that, the rest of the customizations that we have are very standard. Network, connectivity, apps, notification, Glyph interface, battery information, storage, all the other options that you typically see, access to your Google Play or to your Google account, the well-being and parental controls are built in here, safety and emergency location, all the stuff that we expect to see within Android 12 are here. When it comes down to experimental features, in this version so far, we don't have the Apple AirPod options yet. We do have the Tesla app, which enables us to actually connect our phone to, or use our phone to connect or even control our Tesla. And that's one of the things that you see here at the top when I press this, and this is going to basically allow us to log into our Tesla account. So we'll talk about that in a second, but overall, this is what you expect from the Nothing Phone 1. Simple, clean, fast, and responsive system with a very unique experience, not only from a hardware experience, but also with the Glyph interface on the back. So far, it looks like it's actually doing very well. And you can see it does that little nice thing. And of course, I have virtualization turned on for everything. So that's something to keep in mind. And the last thing I do want to mention is that Nothing, although is selling this for, again, at a mid-ranger experience, they're promising us 3 Android updates, meaning this launched with Android 12. They should be able to go to Android 13, 14, and 15 without any issues. Also, 4 years of security patch updates, which means this device really has built-in functionality and longevity in it, and nothing is backing it up. So out of the box, they're definitely putting their money where they're saying their features are going to be. Benefits of having a great design device, a device that's improving over time with software updates. Although I feel like we're not at the point of what they promised us yet, this is still technically somewhat of a work in progress. Of course, we need to talk about the cameras and what we get in here. Again, 16 megapixel in the front, a dual 50 megapixel camera in the back. And that was one of Nothing's main statement, is that they didn't want to put in a filler camera. And what we say essentially is, we've seen other companies put devices on the market with a camera that's typically like a 2 megapixel macro lens or a depth sensor. But essentially what it does here in the back of the unit, it shows us 3 different sensors, making it look like you have 3 cameras. In reality, you pretty much have one great camera and the rest are pretty much complementing cameras. What they did here is they gave us a dual 50 megapixel camera in the back that you're able to shoot 4K 30 frames per second. There's no 4K 60 from both the ultra wide and the standard focal length. And of course the telephoto, which is just a digital crop. But overall, you're getting the best experience on both of these cameras the same way. No filler cameras. And we of course have the little bit of an LED light. The one thing I really like about it though is if, let's say, you want to be able to use the LEDs or basically the Glyph interface for video, or for basically the ability of using it as your fill light, I feel like this is a very unique experience for creators because this illuminates very nicely, provides way more power than what you're getting there. And of course, it's easily set up directly here within the actual interface. You turn it on, you flip it over, and you're able to get that experience. Slow motion, photo, portrait mode, and of course more. We have panorama, macro, since we're using the ultra wide, and of course expert mode, and of course time lapse. All of these things are nicely built in, and I'm going to share with you guys real quick with a sample from the front-facing camera and the main sensor on the back, obviously 1080p and 4K 30 frames per second on the back. Start off with the front-facing camera here. 1080p 30 frames per second is going to be the best resolution. We have 4K capability on the main sensor on the back, and we're going to go ahead and switch over there. But this should be a good example if you decide to take any video calls or so on of the audio and video from the Nothing Phone 1. Switching over to the main sensor on the back. Now here we're able to shoot 4K 30 frames per second. But the nice thing about it is that we're able to use that on both sensors on the back. Now they're both dual 50 megapixel sensors, and that gives us the ability of basically shooting 4K 30 frames per second on either the main sensor or the ultra wide. And it's definitely very nice and a little bit of a flexibility. Typically we don't have all the bells and whistles on the main sensor, well, on all of the sensors. We typically have it only on the main one. So this one's actually kind of leveraging the fact that we have a dual 50. So for the most part, I feel like these are going to give you the best experience on this phone, not just for video, but also for standard still images. But you can let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the audio and video from the cameras that we have here on the Nothing Phone 1. So what you're seeing here essentially is an overall well-balanced experience. I will say that I don't think the Nothing Phone 1 is at the potential that we were sold on. We are not there. This is definitely a work in progress, something that's improving over time. And with every update, they fix the concerns that they see and of course introduce new features into the system. Now let's talk about the Glyph interface. I think first and foremost, you have to admit, or we have to admit, the fact that this is absolutely a very unique experience. We've seen devices with RGB lights and we've seen gaming phones that give us that experience. But the Glyph interface that we get in here is pretty much, front and center into the experience of the Nothing Phone 1. You pretty much see it on the back. It makes what the design looks like the way it is right now a big part of it. Why we have why we enjoy having a see-through back is so that they didn't actually have to customize any kind of cutouts or anything on the device to be able to allow us to see the RGBs like gaming phones do. So what I will say, this is out of the box, I was very excited about the Glyph interface. Out of the box, if you don't know anything, you probably only see the functionality of being able to use it as basically a ringtone notification or as a flashlight for your camera. The ability of making this into a virtualizer, you do need to basically either have researched it, watched other creators put something out about it for you to find out that you needed to create a custom contact and assign it to a ringtone for that option to show up. It's not intuitive, but overall, definitely an enjoyable experience. Although I will say that if you decide to pick up anything other than a clear case, there's really not much you could do with this, because if you put a case that is basically colored or even skinned, you're not going to be able to see the lights, and at that point the Glyph interface entirely becomes a nice to have, but not something that you're able to use. So my recommendation, make sure to pick up a case that is see-through, regardless of which color your phone's going to be, so that you can enjoy the Glyph interface if that's an important part of what this experience is in. At the end of the day, though, I will say the music virtualization, although I have it on in the video for you guys right now, I ended up turning it off. It was nice to have in the beginning because it was virtualizing or giving me a visual EQ for any music that's playing around, so definitely very nice. But having that turn on when I'm listening to music, when I'm watching videos, when I'm doing a whole bunch of different things, started to become a little bit too much of a light effect, and people around me start getting bothered. So I ended up turning off the music virtualization option, and I left the other options on. CarlPay did say that there are going to be additional features coming into the Glyph interface. This is not the entire functionality that they're going to leave it at, of course, and of course the ability of being able to work with developers to bring in more functionality. So anyways, long story short, I like the Glyph interface. I think it can be a little bit too much at times, but you have the ability of turning on those features or keeping them off. The other thing I also wanted to mention a little bit here is at the beginning, I kind of talked to you guys about the fact that there were things that were said that we will be having about this device. So the launch event spoke specifically about interconnectivity, providing us, like they showcased, let's say in this, the recorder app, the voice recorder app that is currently not installed on the phone. It's not released yet, but of course I'm expecting it to come out very soon. But also the other functionality is talking about, being able to control or have a built-in interface for AirPods. That's something that's unique. We don't have that yet. The Tesla system that we have in here is listed under a labs functionality, meaning it's a beta, and it doesn't work. Although I'm able to log in with my Tesla account onto this, I am not able to control anything in my car. Even if I connect the device over Bluetooth to the car, there still is no communication. I think it needs a little bit more updates for it to kind of work the way they want it to. But as a Tesla owner, one of the things that would excite me about a phone like this is that interconnectivity or interoperability between the Nothing Phone 1 and my Tesla car, as obviously we don't have a Tesla phone, and of course there are other things you could do. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about obviously is the camera experience. Although they decided to cover and kind of address some of the gimmicky things that we see on the market by giving us two 50 megapixel sensors and a 16 megapixel sensor on the front. We have also the 778G Plus, that's the processor that we have in here. Now, 4K 30 is going to be the maximum we get. We know that the 7 series, at least the 765, can generate 4K 60 frames per second video recording, although not for a very long time. It could still do the job. It can definitely perform at 4K 60. And we have a dual 50 megapixel camera sensors on the back. The lack of 4K 60 is a little bit of a concern, but again, could be something they can add later in the future. But at 4K 30 frames per second, your main sensors on the back are going to be the best performers on this device. Nothing against the 16, but I feel like the versatility and the best options that were added in here are on the main cameras in the back. The front one is pretty decent. I'll show you guys, obviously, as I'm talking right now with some of those pictures that I was able to take there. The video example that I gave you before was, again, a 1080p on the front, 4K 30 on the back with both sensors. So not necessarily the best cameras on the market, but definitely something they could improve overall, because the sensors that they're using are very well known, very well performing sensors on the market. So I'm excited to see what they can do, but again, it's still technically a work in progress, which I feel like is going to be the continuing theme in the rest of the things we're talking about today when it comes down to the Nothing Phone 1. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is availability. Now, as far as availability, this device is available through Amazon in the UK and Europe to be able to purchase and even ship to the US. It does work on 5G. It's available, as I showed you guys. It works on 5G here with me on T-Mobile. I can't speak for AT&T or obviously on Verizon, but at least on T-Mobile, I'm able to pick up 5G. Connectivity is not an issue. Now, I'm not picking up the mid bands of sub-6. I'm actually pretty much on the low bands. So just keep that in mind when we're thinking about connectivity. It's not going to be getting 600, 700 megabits down. At the most, I'm roughly seeing about 100 or so, which is, again, typical to the low band frequencies that we have on T-Mobile. But it means that this device definitely works here, so there's no question that it will work. So the culminator, to kind of summarize everything that we have in here, the Nothing Phone 1 right now is still a work in progress. What we have is pretty good. The camera experience is okay. I'm not going to call them the best cameras on the market. I feel like with some more software optimizations, they'll be able to do a little bit better as far as some of the vibrancy, the HDR processing that we get in there. I think the 778G can definitely do 4K 60 frames per second, so that should be something we should see hopefully in an update. I don't know if it's planned, but it definitely is something they could do. The sensor and the processor can do it. It's a choice not to go to 4K 30 frames per second, so we'll have to see what Nothing ends up doing later on. The Glyph interface will be improved. We will see more things come out from that. And of course, the overall, user experience on the phone is actually pretty good. Very comparable to some of the flagship experiences of the market, even though you can technically pick this up for about 400 pounds, or literally about close to about $450 or so. 399 pounds, 450. Sorry, the conversion thing is kind of getting me there. But the overall thing is, this is a very unique device. A device that begs you not to put a case on it, or if you do put a case, put a clear case on it. It's available, you're able to pick it up, you're able to use it in the US. I just think that this is not a final product yet. It has not reached the promise that they promised us at the announcement. It's still a work in progress, and we are working with it, and we need to be able to be a little bit more patient with it. So if you decided to pick it up and you heard the announcement from Carl Pei, just understand that they're getting there. Software updates are being pushed. I hope that the Tesla functionality starts working. Obviously I don't use AirPods, but if you are an AirPod user, I'm hoping that that functionality becomes also available for us. I also want to see more updates. That 4-year promise of a security patch update with 3 OS updates. It's crazy at the price point that they're offering us. So there's a lot of love and a lot of questions, and it's going to be a lot of, that's why I kind of named the video Nothing, Nothing, Nothing. It's just something that we need to kind of wait and see how it evolves. So let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of this phone? Do you like it? Is it something that you feel like you would want to upgrade to? Would you want to buy it in the state that it's in right now, and maybe go on the journey that Carl Pei is trying to taking us with it? Also, or would you want to wait for the Nothing Phone 2 or some of the other options that they said they were going to be releasing? This is by no means the only phone that Nothing is going to be putting out. They did say that there are other products that they're going to be pushing out for more connectivity, better functionality. But where we are right now in August of 2022 with the Nothing Phone 1 released and available to purchase, it's a good phone. It's a well-rounded device, gives you more than you pay for. It's just not at the level that they said it's going to be. It's not disrupting the market. It's definitely unique. But like every other manufacturer on the market right now, they release a device and it gets better with time, with software updates. And I feel like that's a little bit more of the same than necessarily unique. So let me know in the comments below, like and subscribe as usual. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.